It's important to be patriotic to your nation. I'll read one scripture that reminds me of patriotism. It's found in the book of Luke chapter 7. Nigeria is a great nation. Hallelujah. But every nation is the sum total of the contribution of its people. No nation makes itself. As a matter of fact, the very definition of nation is lost without the idea of a people coming together in concert towards the performance of a specific goal, objective, and vision. Nations fail when vision lacks. Nation also fails when there is vision, but the absence of capacity to concertedly pursue the performance of the vision of the nation. And I believe that the rebirth of a nation and the reinvention of a nation begins from redefining what's most important, redefining the vision, redefining the goals and the objectives. What do we live for in this nation? What's important to us in this nation? Without a redefinition of what the vision is, we cannot even create goals and objectives that can pursue it. The very essence of goals and objectives was to pursue the picture of vision. When a nation loses its vision, it loses its essence and also loses its standing of influence in the affairs of, things. Nigeria used to be known as the giant of Africa. Well, right now, sincerely, we are giant only for two reasons, but not for every reason that we once were giant. We're giant for numbers. 1 out of every 10 blacks in the world will be a Nigerian. 1 out of every 10 blacks in the world would be a Nigerian. That's huge. So we're known for numbers. We have the largest population in Africa, and of course, one of the largest as well in the world. As at the last count, we had approximately 170 million people living in this nation. Now, so we are giant for number. We are also giant for potential. When you interpret market indices, you would realize that having 170 million people in one country serves a massive market within which you can have great success, economically speaking. And so Nigeria is viewed as a world emerging market. A world emerging market. So when they look at Africa as the next big deal, and Africa is known economically right now as the next big deal, you cannot underestimate the role that Nigeria plays in Africa as the next big deal in terms of world market indices. And so we are giant for numbers and we're giant for potential. But if you ask me about capacity, which is what powers every other element of your potential gigantism, I would say that we have lacked very significantly in the area of capacity development. Nigeria has become a grumbling nation. Nigeria has been crippled deliberately by the efforts of certain people to inherit for themselves privately that which should have been used in nation building. Nigeria has lost focus and vision and therefore has lost momentum and influence. We have not carefully asked ourselves what this nation stands for, our role in the economic affairs of the globe, our role and position in Africa, and our role, the role of our leadership in the well-being of the populace of this country. We have not asked ourselves what has gone wrong, and we have not made deliberate efforts to retrace our steps and put ourselves together. Nigeria has remained more partisan than concerned about what affects the nation as a whole. Now, it's not just about analyzing a problem. Analyzing the problem only prepares you to begin to appropriate a solution. We also have people who make intelligent analysis of the state of our nation. I am very concerned about the state of our nation. I already had planned that one of these days we're going to have a service and call it the state of our nation, because we can sit here and also minded about spiritual things and neglect one of the basic responsibilities of the church, which is to look well to the goings of our nation. I do not believe that the believer should be excluded from politics, excluded from governance, and excluded from, playing significant roles in determining the economy of our nation. The church cannot take its place, cannot be respected, and cannot wield sufficient kingdom influence if we are not big players in the economic affairs of our nation. May I also say that the church will lack a voice if the church does not have economic import in the affairs of our nation. There is very little that the church can contribute to the bottom line of the nation, whether it's in terms of influencing constitutional change or policy amendments and so on, if we do not have economic power. We must begin to rethink. I said at the beginning that every nation is the sum total of the contribution of its populace. So the dollar is where it is because of what the American people have made out of it. The pound sterling is where it is because of what the British people have made out of it. And very truly, the naira is where it is because of where you and I collectively have decided to put it. We can redecide to make this naira great again. We can redecide. I was asking the other day, and the Ghanaian cedi compared to the naira, you need to spend about 115 naira to buy one Ghanaian cedi. What's the exchange rate now? South Africa. You just got back from South Africa. About 23 naira to, okay, 33. Okay, so yeah, man, things change. You see the thing about these indices, they can change overnight, sometimes within one day. You can change $1 for maybe 400 naira in the morning, and in the evening is 450 or it's 350. So these things now, so 33 naira to one South African rand. Can you believe that? Are we still this giant? Everything is riding over our heads, and we're just giants with big mouths. Now we have to become giants with big hearts and big heads. That's what this nation, Nigerians are talkers. We talk a lot. We are loud and noisy. We are proud and showy. What we need now is to be quiet and thinky. We need to reinvent our wheels. We need to get on board again. We need to ask ourselves what really matters. We need to look away from oil and gas for a bit. Oil and gas will always be needed, but oil and gas is not enough to power and sustain the economy. And recent developments in the last couple of years have shown us the instability and uncertainty of the oil and gas sector. The thriving Nigeria that boomed in the 80s did not depend on oil. We had oil, but that was not our mainstay. The mainstay was agriculture. We must return to the basics. And I wish we had invested oil money in creating infrastructure and systems that support the development of agriculture. What does Israel have? Do they have oil? But they have agricultural technology. Some of the fruits you eat are grown on people's rooftops. That's how much agriculture has been developed. Malaysia came to us many years ago and picked palm fruits. Developed it. Today, they're about probably the world's highest and best producer of palms and palm oil. They came to us. Now we are going to them. One of the biggest palm estates in Cross River State today has been given out to the same Malaysian company to run. What's wrong with us? Our heads have got to be reset. We need to go back to factory setting and then deliberately choose the settings that are compatible with the vision that we have? Do we still have a national vision? We must redefine this national vision and be certain that this nation at 56, a boy is not a young boy again. At 56, you should be a grandparent. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Enough of supplying steady light to neighboring countries, earning money and not having light in our own country. It's an amazement. There's a virus in our system, and it must be formatted. Mercilessly. We will lose some files, but let's format the system. We need a government, not a government that talks and does little. Not a government that claims to stand for a certain thing and yet is given to bigotry and selective dispensation of, of justice. Not a government that seeks very clearly to interfere with justice. Not a government that does not respect the rule of law. We need a government, though, that will be birthed by a party, but that can stand firm to cleanse the system of our nation. We do not have that government yet, I dare to say. We don't have it yet. But we must begin to prepare ourselves as a nation. 2019 is not a long way off. We have to get ready. It's the young people of this nation that install the current government. We have the power to install the next government. But if the young people, you see, the choices of our young people just go to show me to what extent there is decadence in our, value system. We don't have the capacity even to make the right choices. Making a choice is not at face value. You don't make choices at face value. Wisdom is the ability to discern and look beyond face value to considering circumstances and predicting outcomes before you make a choice. So it's not about who talks the most. It's not about nice talking. It's not about wishy-washy, political displays. No, we have to know how to define value, and we must stand for it. I will call again to the young people of our nation and everyone else and the stakeholders of this nation. If we still want a Nigeria that is the giant of Africa, and a Nigeria who would rule in the new global market emerging, and a Nigeria that invariably, by translation, will play a very significant role in the world market in just a few years to come, then we must come together to redefine what the vision of this nation is. We must tell ourselves that Nigeria is bigger than an individual. We must tell ourselves that Nigeria needs to win irrespective of who loses in the next elections. We must tell ourselves that Nigeria must arise and take her place again. We must look beyond parties and begin to look at individuals, those that have the capacity to pilot the affairs of this nation. Nigeria, for the first time again in many years, must look out for a young leader who has the software compatible for the 21st century. A young leader who can interpret the state of our nation and yet has the capacity to drive the vision of this country to where we ought to be and install that leader in the next elections. Nigeria is a great nation. We can make it great again. Nothing will reposition this nation like our contributions. Let's get ready. Stop shying away and running and praying in church. We will pray in church, but after prayer meeting is over, you've got to go out there and take your place. We need people who will control the businesses. We need people whose economy will be so powerful that the state government cannot ignore you. We need people who will control the big pieces of the Nigerian economic pie, where the FEC, the Federal Executive Council, cannot ignore the fact that you play such a significant role in this nation.